you want to, wait, don't cry. I'm like happy to, is that okay? Yeah. Hi guys, and welcome back to For Such a Time as This. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Madeline.
And we are just so beyond excited because we are filming, this is our 1 year anniversary video. And we are just so excited and so happy to be here. It's crazy that it's been a year. It is insane to me. I don't like a year ago, like this just did not exist. And we just want to thank you for watching, and we really hope that you guys are taking stuff away from it and that you guys are leaving this channel feeling fulfilled and feeling loved and feeling empowered for God and Jesus, and just knowing who you are at the end of the day. That is the biggest thing, is that we want to just come on here and tell you exactly what Jesus thinks of you, and that he loves you, and there is such a greater purpose in you with God, and we just wanted you to know that. And we're just really excited, so we're just kind of gonna be talking a little bit about that. Maddie, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to say, like Rachel said, thank you guys. We love doing this, and just like Rachel said, our biggest goal is for Jesus, for God to speak through us to you guys, that you would be fulfilled, just like you said. And I just can't believe it's been a year. We have talked about so many things, and we've been through so many things just within the year, and we've grown so much, and it's just so cool to see where we're going to be in 2 years now, because we're not going anywhere. We're staying right here. We're going to make these seats nice and warm for the next year. And I'm just so excited to see what this year brings. We have so many ideas for just different topics, different guests. So be ready for all that's to come, because we're so excited to just keep pouring into you guys and having God pour into us.
Yeah, so we're just really excited to be here with you guys today. We just kind of wanted to go over some of our favorite moments from For Such a Time as This with each other, and like what we've kind of learned and grown and been shown by God, like kind of little things like God winks and God moments. And I just wanted to know like what your favorite was for this year. Favorite video, favorite moment, like, you know, something like that.
I think going back to our old studio when we filmed Love Each Other.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason why that one was so pivotal for me, because I grew so much from that video.
Yeah.
I had a lot of things that I never worked through in my past, and you know, still to this day I reflect on that video and what I've been through and what I've worked through to get to where I am today. And I'm just so grateful we talked about that, because real love is God, and like figuring that out and working through that and loving others through God's love has been so life-changing for me. So I would say that one would be like the biggest change.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. While you were thinking of yours, I'm like, what was mine? Like, I don't even know. I'm like, honestly, that's actually biblical. It was so cool.
That was a fun video.
That was such a fun
part 2.
I'm so excited for the part 2. You guys are not ready. So like,
we got a lot.
So we have so much, but that one was just really fun. And it was really cool to see how many like things are actually biblical, how many like worldly sayings are actually from the Bible. Like, you know what I mean?
It's
like
cool.
it was watch it. Go watch it. And then like honestly, one of my favorite things about doing this is like I get to spend time with God, because like I was just telling you this, like I want it to be very authentic. So like in order for me to pour into this, I need to pour into my cup. So that was like a huge growth thing in itself, because I want to be more active in my Bible. I want to be just a better leader overall. So like that was just so cool, because starting this like really got me on track with walking with God. But it also was so cool to see God using every video and every title that we are working on. Like I'm living it as we're recording it. So it's kind of crazy. Like literally this week is insane. But it's been such a cool experience to see what God is doing. Also, like our studios. Like, I have just been like upgrading, like the sign, like mics, camera, like everything has just been provided for us, which has been such a cool thing, just to prove that God is in here with us.
Amen.
Like, and that is just a really cool moment. And I love it. I love getting to do this. I love working with you. I love getting to do this. So I'm just very grateful for all of you guys that are watching, and I really hope that you are getting something out of it as well. So yeah. So
something you said was every single time we record, we end up going through that, and I'll give it off to you, but our podcast title, guys, is For Such a Time as This, and it's so exciting.
Time as this, and we're just gonna talk all about it because we're gonna be talking about Esther today, and that is just so full circle moment.
Yes.
Because our first ever video on our 1 year video today was about For Such a Time as This and what it meant to us, and it's just really cool, and it's just kind of like insane to like think about. So yeah, we're gonna be just touching base on Esther, and if you haven't read it, definitely go read it because it is such an incredible read, and For Such a Time as This is such an important like saying to me and to Maddie, and it's really cool because you really are living for such a time as this. You're at your job for such a time as this. You are in that friend group for such a time as this. Whatever you're going through that like you feel like you can't get through, it's for such a time as this. It's for a season, and I think that is just really impactful. So yeah, for such a time as this. Okay, so to start, we're just gonna be talking over the book of Esther. So Maddie, do you want to tell us a little bit about the book of Esther?
Yes, I'd love to.
For people that don't know.
Yes. So the book of Esther is in the Old Testament, and the book of Esther has to do with many different people within the book, not just Esther herself. And I really think it's important to just understand the whole storyline before we really dive into Esther, which is the main focus of today's video. But just for some background, I'm going to give you guys a little history lesson. The book of Esther is deliverance. It's all about freedom and just the deliverance of the Jews. And basically the story is very long, even though it's only 8 chapters. There's a lot within it that happens. And so the main points that I just want to take out is that Esther, she was this beautiful woman that scripture says she was beautiful, and she lost her parents I'm not sure if it was very young, but she lost her parents. And her cousin or uncle, depending on the translation you have, basically took her under his wing, and he raised her. And his name was Mordecai. And he's also a very important person in the book of Esther. That's for another time, another day, because there's a lot of life lessons in that in itself. But Esther and Mordecai went to the Persian king because he was having a banquet because he didn't like his wife, his past wife. So he had this big banquet, and Esther was one of the women there, and Esther found favor with the king. It was King Xerxes, I think it's pronounced his name. And she basically had to get ready to be in his presence for, I think it was 12 months. She had to do a lot to prepare to be with the king. She had to put on these perfumes, these oils, this makeup, just to be in his presence. And when all of this is happening, her cousin's outside of the gate for whatever reason. I'm sure it's in there. We're going to skip over that. But he basically heard that there was a plot to kill the king. And because there was a plot to kill the king, Mordecai told Esther, and Esther was like, okay, what do I do with this information? I can't go into the king's presence because I'm not ready to. The only way I could do that is if he lets out his gold scepter, which was like this big king and queen thing that happened way back when, like that we don't understand or know about. But basically, the queen, which Esther did become because the king Xerxes found favor with her, if he didn't summon her she was not allowed to go in his presence, which is so crazy because you're like, what
Yeah.
is this? But that's how it worked back then. So she was like, okay, like I can't just go and see him and tell him that, you know, all these things are happening. And so yes, long story short, Esther informed the king about what Mordecai had heard. And the king, he had this guy that he looked to and was like the yes man, basically. His name was Haman. And Haman didn't like Mordecai because Haman just wanted all the praise and Mordecai wouldn't give it to him. And the whole point of that is that Haman wanted to kill the Jews. So we're in Persia, which is the king Xerxes, and that's where Esther and Mordecai went. And Mordecai and Esther are Jews, but the king didn't know that Esther is a Jew. And that's important because Haman, which was under the king, wanted to kill all the Jews. So Mordecai told Esther, you need to tell the king not to kill our people. And Esther didn't know how to do that. You can imagine she was probably nervous because you're not supposed to be in the king's presence unless, you know, he summons you, or you would literally be put to death. So Esther was like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. And this is where the famous line comes from, for such a time as this, because Mordecai was like, you can't save the people and not say anything. Esther, you were made for such a time as this. You were made to speak about the Jews. You were made for this very moment. And so Esther, being bold and courageous as she is, decided to go to the king. And the king did lay out the gold scepter, and she, you know, through a bunch of series did banquets to then reveal that she was a Jew and that the Jews, like, she wanted them to be free, that the king wished the king not to kill them, basically. But the moral of the story is that she said, even if I lose my life to go see the king, I'm going to do that to save my people. And there is a lot to unpack there. And I don't know if you have anything to add to the story of Esther. I know at the beginning I rambled a lot. But I think it's really important to know the history behind it. And there's so much more than what I just said that is in the story of Esther, that goes with the story, that goes with everything that we're going to talk about. But we just don't have time for all that. So we'll keep it short and sweet. And I just want you guys to know that little bit of background because it really is going to play into everything that we talk about here today. Mm-hmm. So going off of everything I just said, for you, what do you think of Esther? Like, how is she a role model?
Yeah. So for me, I personally, like, I've kind of touched on, like, my experience with this saying in general, but Esther, like, after reading that, like, the book of Esther, it is so insane to me that she had that much courage and knowledge and boldness to go and do something that scared her. And it really, like, it kind of just gets you a little bit because it's like, okay, she had so much, like, boldness to do something that literally could have killed her. And, like, I don't want to go and talk to people to tell them about Jesus because I'm afraid that they're going to reject me. And it's like, what? Like, literally, like, I just want to be more like Esther, to be more inspiring, to be able to tell other people about Jesus, and just honestly just be myself, and just, like, not be afraid of, like, oh my gosh, what are they gonna think of me? Or, oh, like, I don't want to, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to feel like I'm too much for anything. And I feel like I'm too much for a lot of people sometimes, which is, like, it happens, you get in your head. But I'm like, for Esther to just be so comfortable in her uniqueness and her boldness and, like, just be able to be herself, that is such an inspiration for me. That's just, like, a true definition of an incredible person, as someone that can be, like, themselves and be bold and not hold back on things that they know they have to do. Like, and we've kind of touched on that too. Actually, I have some things. So we kind of touched on that too about like Esther and Jesus and all of their roles that they played in the Bible and stuff. So it's incredible to see how inspiring and how much of a drastic change that she did end up making for such a time as that.
Yeah,
you know,
I love that. So going off of that, I think it's really interesting when we're talking about Esther and who she was. So it says in the Bible, it's in Esther 2 where it talks about how Esther lost her parents, they died. And I think for some people that could, have identity issues, like who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I? And I don't even know who my parents were or are, and I didn't get to like do all these things with them. Yeah. Which is very hard. The point I'm trying to bring up is that Mordecai then told her to also hide the fact that she was a Jew. So again, her identity, it's like it's being, taken from her in a way, because she's like, not only does she not get to experience some things with her parents, but she also has to hide the fact that she's a Jew because the king, not the king himself, but his man ordered for the Jews long after to, be killed. So she has the secret, and she also doesn't have her family. And so that's a lot. Think about it for yourself, if you're your own person. Like that's a lot to deal with and a lot of baggage to carry. And I know if I was in that situation, I'd feel very insecure. I'd feel very like, oh, I don't really know who I am, and I don't know really what to do. I don't really feel like I'm called or if I have a purpose or anything, because I just, I'd feel weighed down.
Mm-hmm.
And so back to what you're saying, when Mordecai tells her, you were made for such a time as this to speak up to the king. And she did. She was so bold and she did that. It just shows like God's hand was on her life and the Jews' life. And like something to add to it too, God's name is not mentioned once.
I was
in the
gonna say
book
that.
of Esther.
Yeah.
He's not mentioned
crazy
once. And that's also something that we can touch on a little bit later too as like a big main point. But he was there, even if he wasn't mentioned.
Amen.
And it's just so cool to see that Esther, with all these like things going against her, all these unknowns, all these fears she could have had that the Bible doesn't necessarily say, but we're just, thinking about like her as a person, And it's like, okay, like she did that. Like she literally said, I will go, even if it means my life. I will go and save my people. And I have one more thing to say to that. And this foreshadows Jesus Christ.
Yes. Yep. I was gonna literally just I was like, wow, that when you think of it, it's literally Jesus, like what he did, like on the cross. Like
She sacrificed her life for the Jews, for her people. And God sent Jesus Christ here on this earth, and he died for our sins, for his people, for all of us. No matter if you're a Jew or not, Gentile, he came and he died for us. And it's just so beautiful because the story of Esther, when way back before I really got into the Word of God, I was like, all right, like the Old Testament, I don't even know what this is about. God's not really mentioned in it. Like, why does it have any relevance? And it's like, his name doesn't need to be present. You don't need to hear him all the time for him to be moving, for him to be like active.
Yeah. I was literally I'm not even kidding. Like I was literally just gonna say, and what an incredible, powerful message for like God's name not to even be there, but she was still with God.
Yeah.
Like,
and I have another thing to go off of that, because Esther told Mordecai to fast with the Jews for 3 days, fast and prayer, for her to be able to go to the king and in hopes he would hold out the gold scepter and say, yes, what is your wish? What is your command? And that's so cool because it also shows the definition of a woman of God. You should be fasting and praying in times of trouble, in times of unknown, in times of, God, I can't hear you, I don't see you, you're not physically being talked about, but I'm still going to do the things that make me feel close to you, which is fasting and prayer, which I think is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
You know?
That's so cool. I'm like, I love that you mentioned that because I was literally gonna say that and I was like, dude, like, yes, like it is crazy. And it's like putting me in my place because me all week was like, God, I don't hear you. Where are you? Hello, help me. And like, when you look at Esther, it's like, he wasn't mentioned, but he was there. He had like anointed her for that moment, for that time and place, for someone like me, for someone like Maddie, for someone like you to feel like you don't have a purpose. It's just, it doesn't make any sense because God made you for such a time as this. And even though you may not know what it is yet, it's still coming. God is always on time and you have a purpose for being here that is so much greater than you.
Amen. And I have something to say that is really good. You're going to like this one. Trusting in God and God's timing, like Rachel just said, is really evident in the story of Esther. Even that he wasn't mentioned and Esther was like, oh, I'm waiting for God. Okay, when you read the story of Esther, there are the days and the months and the years are also within these chapters, and it holds significance for many reasons. But the ones I want to point out is that the first 4 chapters took 9 years. And chapters 5 through 8 only took 2 days.
Wait,
So,
I didn't know that.
Yes. So, with Esther getting ready to present herself, I think that was like 12 months, but within the king having his first banquet with his first wife, to not having a wife and looking for a new wife, to Esther getting prepared to meet the king, took 9 years.
Wow.
And then some, because end of chapter 4, when Mordecai's like, you were made for such a time as this, like that was all within 9 years.
Wow.
Long time. Waiting for God takes a long time. For his timing to unfold, for your purpose to unfold, takes a long time sometimes. 9 years of that. And then in the chapter 5 is when things start to really escalate. That's when the king remembers what Mordecai did for him about telling him about the guys that were plotting to kill him, and then realizing that Haman wanted to kill the Jews. And then the Jews were freed because Haman was put to death because the king wasn't happy with that, and that wasn't Esther's wish. And he was still favoring Esther and wanted to do whatever Esther said, and Esther said, let my people free. And that took 2 days. So God's timing is so cool because it takes time, but then it happens all at once. And it just goes back to show you too, the story of Esther is like, okay, like I'm reminded that my purpose and my plan might not happen overnight. It might take years, years, just like Esther. And Esther wasn't in a rush. She wasn't in a rush. She stayed in that, prepping to be ready for the king. And then when she realized and her cousin was like, you need to go to the king, she's like, okay, and figured out what she wanted to say. She had 2 banquets before she even told the king what her wish was about, saving the Jews. So it just shows you like time, God's time, being, slow and, really, what's the word I'm looking for?
To pace yourself.
Yeah, being really present and just like not rushing through life and not rushing God's purpose for your life either. I think that was a big takeaway.
To go off of what Maddie said, I was actually watching Maddie Trout now, and originally known as Maddie Prue. She has a podcast as well called Stay True. Definitely go and watch that. We were watching that the other day. And something that she said to me, for a little backstory of kind of what I've been going through, as I said earlier, we literally walk everything that we're talking about before we go through it. So it's really, really fun. But this week, literally, I don't know what happened, but I spiraled, and I literally was crying the other day because I was so stressed out about my future again. And we've talked about this multiple times about being patient and all the fun stuff. And I really am. When I tell you I really am doing better, I am doing better. But
He's literally said this
so many times. You guys.
Same sentence you said
so many times.
Replay
Everybody replay, watch all the videos and count how many times I've said that. So, But I am. I think so.
We're all working
honestly,
on things.
what I really think it is I have ADHD, so it's just like it just happens. I hear one thought and I'm like, oh, my life is over. Oh my gosh. So it's crazy. But what I was going through this week is I was just so stressed about my timing, and this also happens a lot during my birthday, and my birthday's on Monday. So I'm also getting older. So now it's like worldly noise is kind of just creeping in, and it's like, oh my gosh, well, you don't have this, you don't have this, you don't have this, you don't have this, and it's like, whoa, like, if I don't have that right now, it's for a purpose, it's for a reason, and God is going to supply more than I could have ever dreamed of or even believed for. So I need to be okay with the timing that it happens at, because again, it's not my plan, it's God's plan for my life, and I just have to trust that it's going to work out and it's going to be okay. And I'm more content with that now, but when I'm in the moment and everything is like, seems like it's falling apart, like I've also said this before, it's like God is actually using that. When you fall and you are on your knees, that is when God is going to just completely change your life. Like he's like, great, you surrendered that, now I can finally do my thing, thank you so much. So it's like, it's just really interesting to see the whole kind of like bigger picture of it as to why that actually happened yesterday, like literally yesterday. So why that happened is because it's like he's just saying like you're okay, like this is just not, it's not your time, it's not your time yet, and that's not a bad thing. But what Maddie said, and Maddie Trout said, was if you want peace with God, keep the pace with God. That's it. I was just like, oh, yeah, okay. Because it's like, also, like, I'm just like, woo, yes, go, 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 go. But it's also like, we have to be able to slow down and just enjoy what is around us, because it's, again, I've said this before too, but it's a different season, and everything that I want is a whole different season. So that means that there are going to be so many drastic things that are changing in my life because of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, wait a minute, I don't really know if I want that yet. And would I be prepared for that? No. Am I praying that God prepares my heart while I wait? Absolutely, 100%. Because I want to be able to be the best mom, the best wife, the best like friend, the best everything that I can be while I'm waiting. But also like in the future, I would love to be the most amazing everything, but it's all in good timing. So
I love that you put that there.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about it, but I was like, huh. I literally laughed. I was like, no way, and then I cried because I was like, oh my gosh, like yes, that's the thing. And I actually told Maddie the other day, I was like, I'm doing a lot of this, doing a lot of yapping to God, which is great. He loves to hear my voice, but I also should be listening. And the fact that I couldn't even hear that whisper, because he doesn't scream. He'll send me little God winks here and there, but he doesn't scream. He'll just whisper. And the fact that I was so busy that I was missing those whispers, that was a really hard place to be, because I was literally crying, being like, God, I miss you. Like I can't hear you. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where you are. And it's like he never left me. I just was too busy that I couldn't hear him.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah, that's so good that you put that in there, because it goes back to Esther.
Yeah.
It goes back to the fact that she, again, like I said, you know, she's like fast in prayer. And like sometimes we forget that in our lives, and even me too with the things that I've been going through. It's like you have to make time for God if you want him to be God. If you want him to show up, you want him to help you through your troubles, you need to make time for him so he can actually, you know, work in where you need him to work in. And you need to be able to hear him, and you can't hear him if you're so busy. You can't hear him if you're too occupied with everything else around you. And so like just knowing that the women in the Bible also had their own struggles, but still were like, okay, I need to pray, I need to fast, I need to do this, this, and this to hear God, to be in the midst of God, and to, you know, the story of Esther, she wasn't, like, oh, pray so that God can hear us. Like, again, God was not mentioned. But the point is that she still did the things that we always harp on about, because those things are what make you closer to God. Mm-hmm. And walking testimonies here, like, I know when I spend my morning with God, when I'm praying throughout the day with God, it's just a better day. Mm-hmm. He's with me. Like, why walk without him when he can be right beside me every second of every day?
Yeah.
So I love that you brought that up. And I think we should talk about why we feel connected to Esther.
Yeah.
Do you want to start, or do you want me
to? You can start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So feeling connected to Esther, I would say, is leadership. Recently, I've been so excited. My schedule has been clearing up a lot, and I've just been so excited to do so many things for God. And I just feel like I want to pour out and pour out and pour out. And that's great. And like we just said, our cups need to be filled first to be able to pour into even you guys listening. But like, I just love that Esther is a leader. She stood up for what was right. She stood up for her people. Even when she was nervous, she stood up and, facing trials, facing death, she was like, I have to do this for them. And she did it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great testament even into my life of being like, I don't want to be scared to talk about God. Like, I know God is literally always telling me every time I go to a gas station, talk to the person that's pumping gas, talk to the person that's at the counter, talk to the person in the grocery store, talk to this, talk to that. And I'm like, I want to, but I can't. And I'm like, no, I can. It's just I'm scared to. And I really want to step into more of a boldness like Esther and be more connected to her in that way, to be like, okay, like she did it, I can do it too. And God is in the midst of it, even if he's not, even if I am worried, I have to do it because God's telling me to do it. Mm-hmm. And I just think like, that is what I would say, how I feel connected to Esther, because I want to be more of a leader. And, Paul talks about leadership throughout the whole New Testament, and I have so many verses I could, share with that, because it's like he just spoke to all the different places, and he just told them, like, be bold, make the most of every opportunity, don't worry if you're too young, speak up. Like, mm-hmm. All those verses come to mind. Don't worry about what you will say, because the Holy Spirit will speak through you. Yeah. All those, like, just come in my head in those moments, and I'm like, I just gotta speak. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would say about Esther and how I feel connected to her.
To touch on what your connection is and everything, if I never spoke to you, this would have never happened.
Yeah.
So it's just something to think of when going forward, when you're like, I can't, God, like I can't, like you don't know the seed that you're gonna plant. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like, I love that. I love that you said that, because it's like, now the next time you go, it's like, okay, but
now
like what? Yeah, now I have to. But like also like what could come of it? Like that seed that Mm-hmm. So I guess for me, the reason I feel like very connected to Esther, I never really saw myself as a leader, just because like I always think of, anytime I think of leadership, for instance, I always think of somebody that's type A. I'm not type A, I'm very messy, I'm very unorganized, but I'm like, I also like, my brain is very weird, where it's like certain things that I care about, I'm like, oof, boom, everything is all set, everything is organized, everything is very nice. So it's just doesn't make any sense in my head. But I've also wanted to, because I'm doing this, I'm a worship leader, I was a youth group leader, I'm very much involved in the leadership role, but I also like, I don't know why I don't ever feel like a leader. I kind of feel like I'm still too young, but that really doesn't make any sense in my head anymore either. So it's just like,
now you're too young.
Yes, and I'm like, how am I too young?
Like
too exactly. But that's what the enemy will do, and like that's like a huge thing. Is like, don't let the enemy ever tell you you're too young, because then you'll be too old, and he'll just kind of throw those things in your head to make you feel like you're not a leader. And that's kind of like now like what I'm realizing is that that's what he's been doing to me. And it's like, I now just kind of want to step more into my leadership role of that, because it is really inspiring. Everything that she did was really inspiring. Like, to be, just like I said before, to be as bold as she was, and just to be a leader, and to give her overall presence of leadership. Like, I want to just like walk in a room and be like, yep, hi, I'm here, and like not feel like, okay, I can't talk to anybody, I don't know what to say, like they're gonna think I'm like weird or too much or not enough. Like, I don't want to think like that. I just want to be confident in God's plan, just to be like, I'm here, this is what I'm here for, and this is what I have to say, and if you're either gonna like it or you're not, and that's gonna be it. And I think that that's like, I want to embody that confidence that Esther has.
Amen.
Basically.
I love that. That was so good.
Yeah.
And I love that, because at the end of the day, I think there's fear between what we're saying. I think we have, at least for me, on speaking on my behalf, it's fear of rejection. I'm fearing, oh, they might like yell in my face. Like, oh my gosh, I have a quick story.
Oh, okay.
One time, guys, I used to work at a grocery store, my first job. And long story short, this woman was mad at me because I couldn't open the cash drawer again to give her change for $1 or something. I just asked her nicely to go to a booth where she could get it. And she quite literally threw the change in my face. Threw it right in my face. And I just remember,
like, I'm keeping it now.
I just remember bawling my eyes out. And I have many stories like that, where it's like someone doesn't like what you did and they take it out on you.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like, I get very fearful of, I'm fearful of man, which is definitely a sin, of something that I have to work with in my heart posture, being more fearful of God than of man. But I think that's what stops me right now. It's like being like, okay, like, I don't want them to be mad at me. I don't want to be not liked. I don't want to be yelled at, swore at, literally beaten or killed, like Esther would have been if she didn't get the king's favor. So I think, like, for me, it's definitely that. It's being like, okay, like, I need to step out and be courageous like Esther, and be like, okay, like, I have to, because that's what God wants for me, and if God's in it, he will be there with me. It's his plan, not mine. And like that for me is like, that's so scary, but I think that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I like that, what you said, because I'm like, honestly, you were saying that, and I was like, I wonder why I'm still in like what's it, customer service roles, because, and I think that's why, because I'm like, do you want to take that call? Because I don't want to get yelled at. Like, I really don't want to deal with it. And like, I think that's why I'm still there, is because God is like, no, like, you need to have a little bit of a backbone where you can say, I'm okay. Like, you're good. I got you. It's off your shoulders. And also, something else that I kind of wanted to do as well, to learn this year, is to be able to roll with things and not like hold it all day and be so angry and like
run it through over and over
and over again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that was so embarrassing, or like whatever it is.
3 days later, driving,
just,
oh my gosh,
why did I do that? Like, but it's just like, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to be like, okay, like, whatever happens, and half the time people are not paying as much attention to you as you think you are. Like, I don't even notice what's going on. I really don't. I'm so focused on what I just did 10 minutes ago that I have no idea what you did. I really don't. I'm like, oh my God. But that's another thing. It's just being able to let things go and like not eat it and be like, oh my gosh, and then be angry about it or sad or whatever. So I think
you can go off of that with Esther, because Esther wasn't like, oh my gosh, like I have this big secret, I'm really scared, or even like, oh, I know that they're planning to kill the Jews and I'm not gonna freak out and like just blurt it out, be like, oh, king, like, do something. Like, she had 2 whole banquets before she even spoke with the king about what her request was. And I think that's something what you're saying too, of being like, okay, like, I need to, take the time and go through it before I actually go and speak on it or do that thing.
Yes, exactly. That was how we kind of feel connected to Esther, and in a lot of ways, actually. But now I have a question for you.
Yes.
And you guys, actually, I want to know that, so we learned all about Esther today. I want to know how you guys are going to be more like Esther this week. What is something that you guys want to do to be more bold and confident in who you are? And I ask you the same question.
It's a great question. I think with how I said I was connected to her, which was leadership, and also emphasizing on that I'm also scared of some things about leadership, I think that is my challenge this week, is to be bold and to speak to the people that I know God's calling me to speak to, but I'm just fearful of their response. Fearful of not knowing what to say, fearful of getting choked up, fearful of whatever it may be, just fearful. And I just want to be bold and courageous like Esther in the terms of speaking to other people about God, because that is the goal. That's the goal of being a Christian, is to also pour into other people and spread the good news. And I know that God is calling me to spread the good news, not just on a mainstream, but in my day-to-day, at work, at school, when I go to the grocery store, anytime I'm out, it is to see the person in front of me and ask them if they know God. That is my challenge, because I know God's always telling me to do it, but I never know how, I never know what to say, and I'm too worried to hear what they are going to say back. So that would be my challenge.
I love that.
But
We'll have to keep each other accountable
Yes.
this week. Yeah. I think that that's a really good one, honestly. My challenge is going to be definitely listening more. I want to be able to hear Jesus very loud and clear in his whisper voice, because we as believers know his voice. The more time we spend with him, the more we see him, the more we know him. And that is really my challenge, because I just want to be more patient, and I want to be more at peace and walk at his pace. I'm trying to slow down a little bit more. I also feel like it's our environment that we're in as well. So I want to definitely kind of zone out on social media a little bit. I feel like I'm kind of falling down that rabbit hole again. So I want to definitely change that aspect of it. But yeah, I definitely want to be bold and talk to more people and talk to my friends and talk to just family and everybody about Jesus, and just be like, hey, this is what's going on, this is what happened at the podcast, and all these fun things, and just not be afraid of whatever anyone says. And I just, that's
awesome.
That's probably mine. And be patient. Be very patient. So
I like that. That's awesome. So we just want to tell you guys a little secret, something to look forward to. So we talked about Esther today, and we thought it would be fun to bring a series to the podcast. So we are going to be doing Women of the Bible for the next few episodes, and we are so excited to dive in and really study on our own the different women of the Bible. And I think this will be a blessing to you guys too, just to learn about more of the women and their roles, and what we just did here today, figuring out who they are, what their story is, and how we can relate or feel connected to them. So we're so excited.
We're so excited. We also have another amazing guest. We have so many amazing guests coming on, but we have another amazing guest coming on for this series, and she's so excited. We're so excited. It's going to be really awesome, and we really hope that it gives you fruit and gives us fruit as well, and just fills our cup, because there are so many women that go through so many different things in the Bible that we also go through too. So it's going to be really cool just to break that all down and just kind of discuss it and talk about it. So we hope that you guys stay tuned.
I love that you closed it like that. Thank you. So yeah, with that being said, we just hope you guys love this video. We hope that you guys learned something. I feel like we both learned things in this episode.
It's really cool.
God just speaks through us and gives us amazing things to say to you guys. And so we hope that you do comment, please, and let us know how you'll be challenging yourself this week with the story of Esther, how you can be more like her, and let us know, because we'd love to hear it. So we thank you guys so much for watching, and we hope to see you guys next time
for such a time as this. Bye, guys! Bye!